If you keep pouring your energy into everyone else's life, you will have nothing left to build your own. Think about that for a moment. Most people are busy proving themselves to others, explaining their every move and seeking approval they don't even need. And then they wonder why their own life feels off track. The truth is simple. You can't build real direction until you put the focus back on yourself. Your choices, your priorities, your time, your energy, they must serve the life you want, not the expectations of others. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It's the only way to create a life that feels right for you. Every step you take for yourself builds clarity, strength, and momentum. And every time you hand that focus away, you lose control of your own path. In this session, I'm going to show you why the smartest, strongest, and most fulfilled people in life protect their focus, and why you must do the same starting today. Number one, stop explaining yourself to people who never understand you. Most people spend far too much of their life trying to be understood by people who never will understand them. They explain their choices, they explain their dreams, they explain their priorities. And in the end, they feel frustrated because the other person doesn't agree, doesn't support, or doesn't even try to see where they're coming from. You have to understand something about human nature. People see life through their own filters. They judge, respond, and give opinions based on what they know, what they value, and what they've experienced. It's not personal. It's not even about you most of the time. It's about the limits of their own perspective. And if you keep chasing their understanding, you will end up losing sight of your own direction. When you focus on yourself, you start to realize how much time and energy you've been wasting trying to win over the wrong audience. Think about it. How many times have you tried to justify a decision that was only yours to make? You told them why you quit your job. You explained why you wanted to start that business. You went into detail about why you're changing your lifestyle. And after all that effort, they still weren't on board. That's because your vision is yours. Your life is yours. And the truth is, the people who are meant to be in your life won't need constant explanations. They will see your actions. They will respect your choices. They will let you live without demanding a defense for every step you take. It's a sign of growth when you stop explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because here's what happens when you keep explaining. You open the door for them to question you, to doubt you, to project their fears onto you. And if you're not careful, their doubts become your doubts. You start wondering if you're doing the right thing, not because your heart says so, but because someone else planted uncertainty in your mind. That's how many people lose their way. They let the wrong voices shape their direction. Now you might think, but shouldn't I help people understand me? The answer is, not everyone. There's a difference between explaining something to someone who is genuinely curious and explaining yourself to someone who is only looking for reasons to disagree. If someone has already made up their mind about you, no amount of words will change it. You could spend hours defending your choices and they would still find a way to criticize them. The better question is, why spend that energy? Why not put that effort into building your life instead? Every minute you spend justifying yourself to people who don't care is a minute you're not using to make progress. And progress is the only thing that matters if you want to create the life you want. You can't move forward while constantly turning around to check who's clapping for you. Some won't clap, some will turn their backs, some will openly try to convince you to stop, but none of that changes your responsibility to yourself. Your job is to build your own path, not get everyone to approve of it. I've seen so many people trapped in a loop because they can't move without permission. They seek approval before making changes. They won't start a business without someone saying it's a good idea. They won't change careers unless their friends agree. They won't try a new habit unless their family supports it. And when the approval never comes, they stay stuck. Years pass, opportunities fade, and they wonder why they feel empty. The truth is, you're not here to meet the expectations of people who don't live your life. You're here to take ownership of your life. That means making decisions without always explaining them to people who will never walk your path. When you stop explaining yourself to the wrong people, you will notice something powerful. You get your energy back. You stop feeling drained from conversations that go nowhere. You stop rehearsing explanations in your head. You stop rewriting your plans to make them sound acceptable to others. And with that extra energy, you can focus more clearly on what actually matters: the work, the growth, the next step forward. And here's another reality. Some people will only understand you when they see the results. Before then, they will doubt, question, and sometimes mock you. You can waste months trying to get them on your side, or you can keep building until your progress speaks louder than their criticism. Nothing explains your decisions better than the results you create. And if they still don't understand after that, then they were never meant to. The need to constantly explain yourself is rooted in the fear of being judged or misunderstood. But judgment will always be there. No matter what you do, someone will think you're wrong. If you succeed, they'll say you were lucky. If you fail, they'll say they saw it coming. That's the nature of people who watch from the sidelines. And that's why your focus should never be on convincing them. Your focus should be on living in a way that makes sense to you. When you start to care less about explaining yourself, you start to live more authentically. You start doing things because they're right for you, not because they're easy to explain to others. You take risks that others wouldn't understand. You change directions without fearing their reaction. You try new things without waiting for permission. That's how you create real direction in life, by listening to yourself more than you listen to them. It's not about being arrogant, it's about being responsible. Responsible for your own future, responsible for your own happiness, responsible for your own growth. When you are clear about where you're going, you won't feel the need to give a speech every time someone asks why. You will simply move forward. And the right people will see that and respect it. Think about the people you admire most. They didn't get where they are by explaining themselves to every critic. They made decisions, they stayed consistent, they proved themselves through results, not through words. And in the end, they earned respect, not because they convinced everyone in the beginning, but because they kept going despite the lack of understanding. Here's the real test. Can you keep moving even when the people you care about don't understand? Can you keep working even when your friends think you're wasting your time? Can you keep believing in yourself when no one else is clapping? If you can, you will build a life that belongs to you in every sense. You have to accept that some people will never see you for who you really are. They see the version of you that fits their comfort zone. The moment you grow beyond that, they get uncomfortable. They question you. They pull you back. They label you as different. And that's okay. Their comfort zone is not your prison. You don't have to stay in it just because they want you to. Your life will take a different direction when you stop explaining yourself and start executing your plans without hesitation. You'll be surprised how much faster you move. You'll see results sooner. You'll feel lighter. You'll notice that you don't miss the approval as much as you thought you would. And most importantly, you'll realize that your happiness doesn't depend on whether people understand your every move. Stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Let your work be your answer. Let your progress speak. Let your results tell the story. And while they're trying to figure you out, you'll be building the life you want. That's how you focus on yourself. That's how you create real direction. If you keep your eyes on your own path and your energy on your own growth, there's no limit to how far you can go. The right people will join you. The wrong people will fade away. And you won't need to explain a thing to either of them. Your life will explain itself. And that will be enough. Number 2, give yourself the same effort you give to others. Most people have been trained, almost without realizing it, to give their best to everyone else while giving themselves only what's left over. They show up early for someone else's goals, but show up late for their own. They give extra time, extra thought, and extra energy to the needs of other people, but when it comes to their own growth, they make excuses about why they can't. That's the reason so many feel drained and unfulfilled. They've been living as a resource for others instead of a priority for themselves. When you look at how much effort you give to the people around you, friends, family, coworkers, it's often far more than what you give to your own future. You rearrange your schedule to help someone else. You skip your own workout to run an errand for them. You push back your own work to listen to their problems. And while there's nothing wrong with helping people, there is something wrong when you consistently put your own life on hold to keep others comfortable. Over time, you send yourself the message that your dreams can wait, your health can wait, your progress can wait, but life doesn't wait. Every day you neglect yourself is a day you can never get back. The truth is, you have to learn to give yourself the same priority you give to others. That means scheduling your own improvement time and protecting it as if it were a meeting with the most important person in the world. Because it is. It's a meeting with you. If you wouldn't cancel an important appointment for someone else's dream, don't cancel it for your own. Every time you choose yourself, you build self-respect. You start to believe that your life matters just as much as anyone else's. And that shift in mindset changes everything. Giving yourself the same effort you give to others also means holding yourself to the same standards. If you show up for other people when they ask for help, then you need to show up for yourself when you say you'll do something. If you promise yourself you'll wake up early to work on your goals, then keep that promise with the same seriousness you'd have if someone else were depending on you. You can't build a strong life on broken commitments to yourself. The people who make real progress are the ones who treat their own commitments as non-negotiable. There's another part of this that people don't often think about. When you give your best to everyone but yourself, you start to run out of capacity. You burn out. You feel resentful. You lose energy for even the things you used to enjoy. That's why so many generous, well-meaning people end up bitter later in life. They gave everything they had to others but never invested in their own growth. By the time they realize it, they feel like it's too late to start. You can avoid that by making sure you're feeding your own progress while you help others with theirs. This doesn't mean becoming selfish in the negative sense. It means recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're exhausted, unfulfilled, and constantly behind in your own life, you won't be able to help anyone in a meaningful way. But if you're strong, capable, and moving forward in your own direction, you'll have more to give, and you'll be giving from a place of strength, not sacrifice. That's the kind of help that doesn't drain you. One of the most powerful changes you can make is to take a close look at how you manage your time and effort. Ask yourself, how many hours a day do I spend working on someone else's goals compared to my own? How much mental energy do I use solving other people's problems compared to solving my own? How often do I let my own needs slide because someone else's request feels more urgent? You'll probably see that you've been undervaluing yourself without even realizing it, and that awareness is the first step to changing it. From there, you have to create a plan to balance it. If you work 8 hours a day for your job, then you owe yourself at least some focused time every single day for your personal goals. That could be learning a skill, building a side business, improving your health, or deepening your knowledge. You have to be intentional about it. Waiting until you have time never works because your schedule will always fill itself with other people's needs if you let it. You have to carve out time and protect it. You also need to give yourself the same patience you give to others. When someone you care about struggles, you encourage them. You remind them that mistakes are part of the process. But when you make a mistake, you beat yourself up. You tell yourself you're not capable. You lower your expectations. That double standard destroys progress. You have to speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you want to succeed. You have to push yourself forward instead of tearing yourself down. Another area where this applies is in the resources you're willing to invest. You might spend money to help someone else succeed, buying them books, tools, or equipment. But when it comes to investing in your own education, your own health, or your own business, you hesitate. You think, I can't spend that on myself. You have to flip that thinking. If you believe other people's futures are worth investing in, then yours is too. And you'll find that when you invest in yourself, the returns multiply far beyond what you could ever get from neglecting your own growth. It's also important to set boundaries. Part of giving yourself the same effort you give to others is being willing to say no when something takes away from your priorities. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you care enough about your own future to protect it. Every yes you give to something unimportant is a no to something that matters for your life. When you understand that, you start making choices that align with your goals instead of scattering your effort everywhere. The hardest part for many people is overcoming the guilt. They feel selfish for putting themselves first. They think it means they're abandoning people or not being supportive. But in reality, you're not abandoning anyone. You're building yourself so you can be a better resource for the people who matter most. There's nothing selfish about wanting to live your life to its fullest potential. The people who truly care about you will respect that. And the ones who don't, we're never really supporting you in the first place. Here's a truth that might be uncomfortable. Not everyone you give to will give back to you. You can spend years sacrificing for some people and never see them show up for you in the same way. That's why it's dangerous to base your life on always giving to others without giving to yourself. You need to make sure that no matter who comes or goes, your progress isn't dependent on their effort. You're responsible for your own development. You can't outsource that. When you start giving yourself the same effort you give to others, you'll notice a shift. Your energy will increase. Your motivation will grow. You'll start to feel proud of the way you show up for yourself. That pride fuels more action. And as you make progress, you'll attract people who respect your boundaries and your priorities. You'll build relationships that are balanced instead of one-sided. You'll start to feel in control instead of feeling like life is always pulling you in different directions. In the end, you have to remember that you are the only person who will live every single day of your life. No one else will be there for all of it. So it only makes sense to give yourself the best you have to give. Work as hard for your own success as you do for the success of others. Care as much about your own health as you do about theirs. Make your own dreams as urgent as you make theirs. That's not selfish. That's fair. That's balanced. And that's how you create a life you're proud to live. If you start doing that now, today, you will look back years from now and thank yourself for it. You'll see that your decision to treat yourself as important was the turning point that changed everything. You'll realize that the time and effort you put into yourself paid off in ways you couldn't have imagined. And you'll be living proof that when you value yourself as much as you value others, your whole life changes for the better. Number 3, remove anyone who makes you doubt your own worth. There are people in your life right now who quietly chip away at how you see yourself. They may not insult you directly. They may not shout at you, but through small comments, dismissive behavior, or constant doubt, they make you question whether you're capable, whether you're good enough, whether you even deserve the things you want. Sometimes they do it with a smile, sometimes with a joke, sometimes under the disguise of just being honest. And over time, you start to carry those doubts as if they were your own thoughts. You begin to hesitate before making decisions. You second-guess your talent. You lower your standards without even noticing. That's what happens when you keep people close who make you doubt your own worth. They become the voice in your head that tells you to settle. Your worth isn't up for debate. It's not something someone else can hand to you or take away from you. It's built into you from the moment you're born. But the people you allow close to you can influence how clearly you see it. If you spend enough time around people who only point out your flaws or weaknesses, you'll start to believe those flaws define you. If you keep letting their opinion weigh more than your own, you'll shrink your life to fit their version of you. That's why it's so important to protect yourself from those who feed your self-doubt. Sometimes these people are easy to spot, the ones who openly criticize you, belittle your achievements, or constantly compare you to others. But other times they're harder to identify. They might appear supportive on the surface, but if you look closely, you'll see they never truly celebrate you. They give backhanded compliments. They change the subject when you succeed. They always seem to find a reason why your goals won't work. This isn't harmless. Every small seed of doubt they plant grows if you let it. It's not your job to convince them of your value. It's your job to remove their influence over your life. That might mean creating distance. That might mean ending certain relationships altogether. It might even mean stepping away from people you've known for years, if you see that they repeatedly diminish you instead of lifting you. Some will call it harsh. Some will try to guilt you into staying. But you have to remember, this is about protecting your mental state, your self-belief, and your ability to move forward without carrying someone else's limitations in your head. You cannot build a strong life in an environment where your worth is constantly questioned. No matter how disciplined you are, no matter how ambitious, constant doubt from people you trust will eventually slow you down. You need to surround yourself with people who remind you of your strengths when you forget them, who respect your boundaries, and who believe in your ability to grow. If someone consistently makes you feel smaller, you need to be willing to step back. Many people avoid doing this because they fear being alone. They would rather keep negative influences close than face the discomfort of distance. But the truth is, being alone while you rebuild your sense of self-worth is far better than staying connected to people who make you question it every day. Alone, you have the space to remember who you are without someone else constantly rewriting the story. Alone, you can hear your own voice again, and that voice matters more than all the others combined. Removing people who make you doubt yourself doesn't mean you stop caring about them. It means you care enough about yourself to no longer let them shape your identity. You can wish them well. You can forgive them for not seeing your value, but you don't need to keep them close. Protecting your worth is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of survival in a world where too many people are quick to tear others down to feel taller themselves. The real shift comes when you decide that your life is no longer a place where disrespect is tolerated. You stop laughing off insults disguised as jokes. You stop letting people's just being real comments plant insecurity in your mind. You stop explaining your dreams to those who only respond with reasons you'll fail. You start treating yourself as someone whose confidence is worth defending, and that changes how people treat you. When you respect yourself enough to remove those who drain you, you send a message: my worth is not negotiable. You'll be surprised how much your energy changes when you cut out the constant doubters. You'll notice you feel lighter. You'll find it easier to make decisions without replaying their voices in your head. You'll start to take bigger steps because you're no longer waiting for someone else's approval. And as you grow, you'll attract people who see your value clearly and want to see you rise, not shrink. There's another truth here. Sometimes the person making you doubt yourself isn't malicious. They might be carrying their own insecurities and projecting them onto you. They might be afraid of change and want you to stay where you are because it makes them feel safe. But even if their intentions aren't cruel, the effect on you is the same. You end up questioning yourself when you should be believing in yourself. That's why the solution is still distance. You can understand them, even forgive them, but you don't have to absorb their fear as your own. It takes strength to walk away from relationships that undermine you, especially when they've been part of your life for a long time. But if you keep them close, you'll keep fighting battles that don't belong to you. You'll spend more time defending yourself than building yourself, and eventually that constant fight will wear you down. Distance isn't always easy, but it's necessary if you want to stand strong in your own worth. The people you keep close either water your confidence or drain it. There's no neutral. Over time, they either make you feel more capable or less capable. If you notice a pattern of feeling smaller, weaker, or less sure of yourself after spending time with someone, that's not a coincidence. That's a sign, and signs are meant to be acted on. You get one life. You get one chance to decide what kind of environment you will live in. You can choose to fill it with people who doubt you, question you, and slowly convince you to accept less than you deserve. Or you can choose to fill it with people who challenge you to grow, who celebrate your progress, and who remind you of your value even when you forget it yourself. The second choice might mean losing some familiar faces, but it will gain you a stronger future. Your worth is the foundation for everything else you will build. If you let it be weakened by the wrong voices, everything you try to create will be harder. But when you protect it, when you refuse to let anyone shake it, you move through life differently. You take more risk. You recover faster from setbacks. You stand taller in every situation because you know who you are, and no one's opinion can change that. Removing anyone who makes you doubt your worth isn't about rejecting people. It's about rejecting the belief that you need to keep people close who make you feel small. It's about putting yourself in an environment where your confidence can grow instead of wither. It's about making sure that the voice in your head believes in you more than it doubts you. And that starts with controlling whose voices you allow to be close enough to influence you. Once you make that choice, you'll see that your self-worth was never really gone. It was only buried under the weight of other people's opinions. When you remove that weight, you'll feel the difference immediately. You'll start to see yourself clearly again. You'll move forward with more certainty, and you'll know deep down that you made the right choice. Because no one who truly values you will ever make you doubt your own worth. Number 4. Spend more time building your future than talking about it. Most people spend more time talking about what they're going to do than actually doing it. They talk about their big ideas. They talk about how next year will be different. They talk about all the changes they're going to make. And yet when you look closely, weeks pass, months pass, years pass, and very little changes. The reason is simple. Talk is easy, work is not. Talking about your future feels satisfying in the moment because it gives you the illusion of progress. But in reality, nothing moves until you take consistent action. If you want to create a strong future, you have to shift your time and attention away from endless conversations and into building something real. The hours you spend telling people your plans could be spent learning the skills you need. The time you spend convincing others of your vision could be spent executing it. The energy you use explaining what you will do could be invested in actually doing it. Every day you talk more than you act. You push your goals further away. When you truly commit to building your future, you stop needing to talk about it so much. You don't need to announce every move you're making. You don't need to explain every step of your plan. You simply do the work. You wake up earlier if that's what it takes. You stay focused when distractions try to pull you away. You replace empty promises with visible progress. You understand that your time is too valuable to waste, proving yourself to people who aren't invested in your success. The truth is, people remember results, not conversations. No one will care how many times you said you were going to get in shape if you never actually do it. No one will respect the number of times you promised to start a business if you never launch it. Words only hold value when they're backed by consistent action. The real measure of your commitment isn't what you say, it's what you finish. There's also a hidden danger in constantly talking about your plan. When you share them too much before you take action, you create a false sense of accomplishment. You trick yourself into thinking you've made progress simply because you've said it out loud. That false satisfaction can rob you of the urgency to actually By the time you're done telling everyone about it, the drive you had in the beginning has faded. That's why so many people live in a cycle of big talk followed by little to no execution. If you want to break that cycle, start holding yourself to a simple rule. No more talking about what you're going to do unless you've already taken a step toward it. This forces you to move from intention to action faster. It forces you to prove to yourself that you're serious before you start telling others you are. It builds a habit of producing first, sharing later. And over time, it trains your mind to value action above approval. The people who build great futures spend far more time working quietly than they do announcing their every move. They use their energy to learn, practice, refine, and execute. They understand that the reward comes from the result, not from impressing people with their intention. They don't seek constant validation because they know the validation will come naturally once the results are visible. Another thing to remember is that the time you spend talking about your future is time you can't get back. If you keep spending it on conversations that lead nowhere, You'll eventually run out of opportunities. The world doesn't wait for you to get serious. Opportunities appear and disappear. Trends shift, doors open and close, and if you're still stuck explaining your dream instead of building it, you'll miss your chance. You also have to realize that some people will encourage you to talk endlessly because it entertains them. They enjoy hearing your ideas, but they aren't invested in seeing you make them real. They'll smile, nod, and then forget about it. Meanwhile, you walk away feeling like you've done something meaningful, when in truth, nothing has changed. That's why you need to be careful who you share your goals with and how often you talk about them. Share them with people who will push you to act, not people who just want to listen and move on. The shift from talking to building requires discipline. It means replacing comfort with challenge. It means doing the work even when it's not exciting. It means saying no to distractions that promise quick satisfaction but slow down your progress. It means staying consistent long after the initial excitement fades. And it means measuring your success by what you've actually created, not by how many people have heard about it. One of the most powerful things you can do for your future is to keep your plans private until you have something concrete to show. This keeps your focus where it belongs, on the work. It also protects you from unnecessary opinions that can derail your momentum before you've even begun. People can't doubt or discourage a dream they don't know about, and you won't feel pressured to prove yourself through words alone. Over time, when you spend more hours building than talking, you develop something most people never have: a track record. You'll have proof that you can start and finish what you set out to do. You'll have real achievements you can point to, not just conversations. That track record builds confidence, it builds credibility, and it makes the next goal easier to reach, because you've already shown yourself you can do it. This approach also changes how others see you. Instead of thinking of you as someone who always talks about big plans, they'll see you as someone who gets things done. They'll respect your time because they can see that you respect it yourself. And they'll take your future goals more seriously, because you've already proven that your words are backed by action. You have to decide which matters more: sounding impressive today or being impressive tomorrow. Talking gives you short-term satisfaction. Building gives you long-term success. If you want a future worth living, you have to choose the second option every time. That means waking up with a clear plan for what you'll do today to move forward. It means tracking your progress and adjusting when necessary. It means being willing to work in silence for as long as it takes. When you look back years from now, you won't be proud of the times you talked about what you were going to do. You'll be proud of the moments you kept your head down and did the work, even when no one was watching. You'll be proud of the results that came from the quiet hours of effort no one else saw. And you'll see clearly that your future wasn't built in conversations. It was built in actions. The choice is always yours. You can keep talking, or you can start building. But if you truly want to shape your own future, you have to remember this: every hour you spend building is an hour that brings your vision closer to reality. Every hour you spend talking is an hour that leaves it exactly where it is. If you care about where you're going, you already know which one to choose. Number 5, make choices that match the life you truly want. Every decision you make is either moving you closer to the life you want or pulling you further away from it. Most people underestimate how much power is in their daily choices. They think the big decisions are what shape their future, but it's the small, consistent ones that quietly decide the direction of their life. What you choose to do each day, who you choose to spend time with, how you choose to spend your money, what you choose to believe about yourself. These are the real architects of your future. If you want a life that feels meaningful, stable, and aligned with your values, you have to stop making decisions that are convenient today, but costly tomorrow. Too many people know the kind of life they want, but keep making choices that contradict it. They want financial freedom, but spend like they will never run out of money. They want a healthy body, but keep ignoring what they eat and how they move. They want a strong career, but spend more time entertaining distractions than building their skills. The truth is, you cannot want one life and live another. The two will never meet. Making choices that match the life you truly want means being honest about what that life requires. It means asking yourself, if I had the life I dream about right now, what decisions would I have made to get here? Then start making those decisions today, even before the rewards are visible. It might mean cutting out habits that feel comfortable but hold you back. It might mean walking away from people or environments that no longer fit the direction you're moving toward. It might mean spending long stretches of time doing the hard, unexciting work that no one else sees, but that builds the life you've been aiming for. One reason people struggle with this is that they want the outcome without the discipline that comes before it. They want to enjoy the benefits of the life they desire while still making the same choices they've always made. But nothing changes until your decisions change. If you want a different result, you must start thinking and acting like the version of you who already lives that life. That version of you doesn't waste hours on meaningless distractions. That version of you doesn't seek approval from people going nowhere. That version of you chooses in a way that makes progress inevitable. Every choice has a cost. Choosing to stay up late watching something unimportant might cost you the energy you need tomorrow to work on your goal. Choosing to say yes to obligations you don't believe in might cost you the time you could have invested in building your own vision. Choosing to spend money carelessly might cost you the freedom to take opportunities when they arise. The life you truly want will not be built on careless decisions. It will be built on intentional ones. It's also important to understand that not all good opportunities match the life you want. Sometimes you'll be offered something that seems attractive but would take you in a direction you don't actually want to go. That's why you need clarity before you can make aligned choices. If you're unclear about what you want, you'll be pulled in every direction by what looks appealing in the moment. But when you're clear, you can quickly see what fits and what doesn't. Clarity also helps you resist pressure. You will meet people who want you to live according to their expectations. They may mean well, but their advice, opinions, and values may not match the future you're building. Without a clear vision for your life, it's easy to take their suggestions and shape your life to please them instead of yourself. When you're clear, you can thank them for their input and still make the choice that matches your path. Sometimes matching your choices to your future requires sacrifice in the short term. You might have to turn down comfort now for security later. You might have to skip social events to work on your skills. You might have to live below your means for years to achieve financial independence. These decisions won't always feel good in the moment, but they're investments in the life you truly want. And over time, those investments pay off in ways that convenience never could. The challenge is that in the moment, poor choices rarely feel like they're destroying your future. Skipping one day of effort doesn't feel like a big deal. Spending a little more than you should doesn't seem dangerous. Saying yes to something off track feels harmless. But small choices accumulate. They compound. And eventually you either wake up living the life you built with discipline or the life you settled for through neglect. You have to remind yourself daily that your decisions are votes for the person you want to become. Every time you choose in a way that matches your vision, you strengthen. Every time you choose against it, you weaken it. The life you truly want isn't a mystery to be solved. It's a set of actions to be taken, day after day, until the gap between where you are and where you want to be disappears. One of the most practical ways to do this is to pause before each major decision and ask yourself, does this move me closer to my vision or further away? It's a simple question, but it forces you to think beyond the moment. It stops you from choosing based only on what feels good right now and reminds you to consider where you're going. When you practice this consistently, it becomes second nature. You start naturally gravitating toward choices that support your future. Another thing to remember is that your environment will influence your choices more than you think. If you spend time around people who live in a way that contradicts your goals, it will be harder to make decisions that match your vision. But if you surround yourself with people who live with intention, who push themselves, who prioritize growth, their example will strengthen your own commitment. Your surroundings can either make the right choice easier or make it hard. Matching your choices to your desired life also means learning to trust yourself. You have to believe that you are capable of following through. You have to believe that your vision is worth protecting. You have to believe that your effort will pay off, even if no one else understands why you're doing it. Self-doubt makes it easy to choose the safe, familiar path instead of the one that leads where you want to go. But belief in your ability to adapt, learn, and improve will keep you making bold, intentional decisions. In the end, the life you truly want is shaped by hundreds of choices no one else will see. No one will stand over your shoulder and force you to act in alignment with your vision. That responsibility is yours alone. And when you take it seriously, when you make every decision count, you stop leaving your future to chance. You build it with precision. You build it with intention. And eventually you look around and realize you are living exactly the life you once imagined, because you made the decision over and over again to match your actions to your dream. Number 6, protect your mental space like your life depends on it. Your mental space is the control center for everything you do in life. It's where your ideas are born, where your decisions are made, and where your confidence is built or destroyed. If it becomes cluttered, disturbed, or poisoned by negativity, your ability to think clearly and act decisively will disappear. That's why protecting it is not optional. It's essential. If your mind is constantly under attack from toxic people, endless distractions, or destructive thoughts, you will never have the clarity or energy to build the life you want. Most people protect their physical possessions more than they protect their mental state. They'll put locks on their doors, passwords on their devices, and alarms in their homes. But they'll let anyone walk into their mind with their opinions, fears, and problems. They'll spend hours listening to people who drain them. They'll fill their days with noise that keeps them anxious and restless. They'll open their phone first thing in the morning and let the world decide how they feel for the rest of the day. And they wonder why they feel exhausted before the day has even started. Protecting your mental space means deciding who and what gets access to your attention. Your attention is your most valuable currency. Wherever it goes, your energy follows. If you give it to meaningless arguments, it will drain you. If you give it to people who only complain, it will make you heavier. If you give it to endless distractions, you'll have nothing left for the things that matter. And the more you allow that to happen, the harder it becomes to focus on what you need to do for yourself. One of the first steps in protecting your mental space is becoming selective about the people you allow close. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your thoughts, feelings, and time. There are people who will lift you up, challenge you, and make you stronger. And there are people who will drain you, confuse you, and pull you away from your priorities. You have to be willing to create distance from those who disturb your peace. That distance might make some people uncomfortable, but it will save your mind from being overwhelmed. You also have to guard your mental space against information overload. We live in a time when you can drown in news, opinions, and endless streams of content. The problem is that most of it doesn't add value to your life. It distracts you. It keeps your mind scattered and reactive. If you spend hours scrolling through headlines and arguments online, you'll have no room left in your mind for your own idea. You have to set boundaries for how much information you take in and where you get it from. Choose sources that educate you, inspire you, or help you grow, and ignore the rest. Another part of protecting your mental space is being intentional about your environment. The places you spend time in affect how you think and feel. A cluttered, chaotic space will make your mind feel the same way. An environment filled with constant noise will keep you restless. But a clean, organized space gives you room to think. Quiet moments give you the mental breathing space to reflect and plan. Your surroundings should support your focus, not compete with it. You also need to pay attention to how you speak to yourself. Your inner voice has more influence over your mental space than anything else. If you constantly criticize yourself, focus on your failures, or replay your mistakes, you're polluting your own mind. Protecting your mental space means replacing destructive self-talk with thoughts that push you forward. That doesn't mean lying to yourself or pretending everything is fine. It means being honest about where you can improve while still believing in your ability to grow. There will always be things outside your control that threaten your peace of mind. People will say things that bother you. Situations will happen that you didn't expect, but you control whether you let them take over your mental space. You can't always stop problems from showing up, but you can choose how much of your attention they get. Most people make the mistake of giving problems more mental space than they deserve. They think about them all day. They talk about them to everyone they meet. They replay them at night when they should be resting. That habit keeps them trapped in the problem instead of finding a solution. Protecting your mental space also means setting limits on how available you are to others. You cannot be on call for every request, every favor, every conversation. If you try to be available to everyone, you will have nothing left for yourself. It's okay to say no. It's okay to not answer right away. It's okay to step away and recharge. The people who truly respect you will understand. The ones who don't were never really concerned about your well-being. You have to start treating your mental space as if it's a non-renewable resource. Once today's mental energy is gone, you can't get it back. That's why you need to spend it carefully. You can spend it worrying about things you can't control, or you can spend it building something meaningful. You can give it to people who waste it, or you can give it to people who appreciate it. Every choice you make either protects your mind or leaves it vulnerable. When you start protecting your mental space, you'll notice a shift. Your thinking will become clearer. Your decisions will come faster. You'll feel less weighed down by the noise around you. You'll have more energy to take action on the things that matter most. And you'll find that you're less reactive to negativity because you've stopped letting it live in your head, rent-free. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a skill you build by making small adjustments every day. You create boundaries and stick to them. You decide who you will and won't engage with. You reduce your exposure to things that don't serve your growth. You create an environment that supports your focus. You speak to yourself in ways that build your confidence instead of tearing it down. There will be moments when you slip and let something into your mental space that shouldn't be there. That's normal. The key is to notice it quickly and remove it before it spreads. If a conversation leaves you feeling drained, take note of why and limit your time in those situations. If a habit is making you more anxious, replace it with one that calms you. Protecting your mental space isn't about perfection. It's about being aware and taking action to keep it strong. Your mental space is the foundation for every part of your life. If it's filled with negativity, doubt, and distraction, it will be nearly impossible to build something great on top of it. But when it's clear, focused, and protected, you can handle challenges without losing your balance. You can make decisions with confidence. You can stay committed to your goals. That's why you have to protect it with the same seriousness you'd protect your health, your home, or your most valuable possessions. Because in the end, your life will only be as strong as the space you create in your mind. Number 7, put your energy into things that actually move you forward. Your energy is one of the most valuable resources you have, and yet most people give it away to things that have no real impact on their future. They invest hours into activities that don't get them closer to their goals. They get pulled into arguments that change nothing. They keep commitments that lead them nowhere. They spend mental effort on things they can't control. Then they wonder why they feel stuck, tired, and unmotivated. The truth is, if you want to move forward in life, you have to become intentional about where your energy goes. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of physical, mental, and emotional energy. Once it's spent, it's gone for that day. If you waste it on meaningless distractions, you won't have enough left for the work that matters. If you use it on people who drain you, you won't have enough left for the relationships that truly enrich your life. If you spend it worrying about things you can't change, you won't have enough left to take action on the things you can change. Moving forward requires that you protect your energy and direct it toward activities that produce real progress. To do this, you have to first get clear on what actually moves you forward. That means defining your priorities. Not everything you do has the same level of impact. Some tasks produce results. Some only keep you busy. Some things look productive but make no real difference in the long run. If you don't know the difference, you'll fill your days with activity but see little improvement in your life. The people who make consistent progress know exactly what matters most, and they put the bulk of their energy there. Once you know what matters, you have to make it non-negotiable. Too many people treat their most important work as something they'll get to if they have time. But time will always get filled with something else if you let it. You have to flip that thinking. The things that move you forward come first. Everything else gets the leftover energy. If you keep putting your highest priorities second, you'll stay stuck in the same place year after year. Another way people lose energy is by giving attention to situations and people that don't deserve it. Some conversations are nothing more than traps for your focus. Some people thrive on pulling you into their problems without any intention of solving them. You have to recognize these patterns and step out of them. Every moment you spend in those situations is a moment stolen from your future. You can still care about people without letting them consume your energy with endless negativity or drama. You also need to be careful about how much energy you give to distractions. Distractions are appealing because they feel easy. They give you instant stimulation, but every time you choose them over meaningful work, you're delaying your own progress. The more you allow them to take over, the harder it becomes to break free from them. That's why you have to build the discipline to say no. not just to bad habits, but to anything that doesn't move you closer to where you want to be. Part of using your energy wisely is learning to simplify. The more scattered your focus is, the more your energy gets diluted. If you're chasing too many goals at once, you won't make real progress on any of them. You have to decide what matters most right now and go all in on that. The more concentrated your effort, the faster you'll see results. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about doing the right things with full commitment. It's also important to manage your energy by taking care of your body and mind. You can't expect to move forward if you're constantly exhausted, stressed, or burned out. Rest, nutrition, exercise, and mental breaks aren't luxuries. They're requirements for high performance. The more you take care of yourself, the more energy you have to put into the work that matters. Ignoring this will only slow you down in the long run. Another trap is thinking that movement equals progress. You can be incredibly busy and still be going nowhere. You can fill your schedule with tasks and still not be any closer to your goals. Real progress comes from doing the things that have a measurable impact. If something doesn't create a result that matters to you, it's probably not worth the energy you're giving it. Ask yourself regularly, is what I'm doing right now moving me forward, or is it just keeping me occupied? That question alone can save you years of wasted effort. You also have to learn to release the things that no longer serve you, old goals that no longer inspire you, commitments that no longer make sense, relationships that no longer add value. The more energy you spend holding on to them, the less you have for the things that matter today. Letting go isn't about quitting, it's about creating space for better use of your energy. Over time, when you consistently put your energy into the right things, you start to build momentum. Small wins add up. Opportunities start to appear. Your confidence grows because you can see real progress. That momentum makes it easier to keep going because your energy is producing results, not just activity. And that's when you realize that progress is less about how much effort you put in and more about where you put it. There will always be demands on your time and energy. You'll never have a completely empty schedule, but you always have a choice about where your best effort goes. If you give it to the things that matter most, you'll move forward steadily. If you give it to the things that don't, you'll keep feeling stuck. The difference between those who advance and those who don't is rarely talent. It's focus. It's the discipline to direct their energy toward progress every single day. When you reach the end of each day, ask yourself, did I put my best energy into what truly matters? If the answer is no, make the change tomorrow. If the answer is yes, keep going. Your future is shaped by the way you spend your energy today. Spend it on the things that will still matter years from now, and you'll look back with pride knowing you moved forward in a way that counts. Number 8. Say no to anything that keeps you stuck in place. One of the most important skills you will ever develop is the ability to say no to the things that keep you from moving forward. Life is full of opportunities, requests, and invitations that seem harmless but are designed to keep you exactly where you are. They may not look dangerous at first, but they eat away at your time, your focus, and your momentum until months or even years pass without real progress. If you want a better future, you have to stop saying yes to the things that chain you to the same place. Many people stay stuck not because they don't have the ability to move forward, but because they keep agreeing to things that take them away from their path. They say yes to commitments they don't truly believe in. They say yes to obligations that drain their energy. They say yes to social situations that offer no growth. Every time they agree to these things, they sacrifice the time and focus they could have spent building their own life. Over time, this habit becomes a lifestyle. And before they know it, they've built years of activity without any real advancement. Saying no is not about rejecting people for the sake of rejection. It's about protecting your ability to move towards your goals without unnecessary delay. Every yes has a cost, even if it feels small in the moment. A single evening spent on something meaningless might seem harmless, but when that happens over and over, it becomes a pattern. Patterns shape your life. And if your pattern is to always say yes out of habit, fear of missing out, or fear of disappointing others, then you'll continue to stay in the same place no matter how badly you say you want change. You have to learn how to recognize the things that keep you stuck. Sometimes it's obvious. A toxic relationship, a dead-end job you refuse to leave, a habit that wastes hours every day. But sometimes it's subtle. A friend who always wants your attention but never pushes you to grow. A temporary situation that's lasted for years. Or a comfort zone you've convinced yourself is safe. If you're not honest with yourself about these things, you'll keep telling yourself you're making progress when you're really just circling the same spot. The challenge is that some of the things that keep you stuck are enjoyable in the short term. They might give you quick comfort, easy entertainment, or temporary relief from stress. But those benefits disappear quickly, and you're left exactly where you started, sometimes even further behind. That's why you have to measure your choices, not just by how they make you feel now, but by where they lead you over time. If the long-term result is stagnation, the answer has to be no, no matter how tempting the short-term feeling is. Another reason people have trouble saying no is because they've built an identity around being available to everyone. They want to be liked. They want to be seen as dependable. They want to avoid conflict. So they keep saying yes, even when it goes against their own best interest. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't help you grow, you're saying no to the life you really want. You're saying no to your own priorities. You're saying no to your own potential. You have to be willing to deal with the discomfort of saying. Some people won't understand it. Some will be upset. Some will try to convince you that you're making a mistake. But if your yes is keeping you in the same place year after year, it's not worth keeping the peace at the expense of your future. You are responsible for protecting your time, your energy, and your direction. No one else will do that for you. One of the most powerful ways to start saying no is to get brutally clear about what you want in life. If you know exactly where you're going, it's much easier to recognize what doesn't belong in your path. You stop feeling guilty for turning things down because you know they don't fit your vision. You stop wasting time on obligations that don't align with your priority. You become focused, and focus naturally requires you to say no far more often than yes. Saying no also frees up space for the right opportunities. If your life is filled with commitments that keep you stuck, there's no room for anything better to take their place. But when you start cutting those things out, you create the space and time you need to pursue opportunities that actually move you forward. The more you protect that space, the more progress you make. There's a mental shift that happens when you begin to say no to the wrong thing. You start feeling more in control. You start making decisions based on your own needs instead of the demands of others. You realize that you can't control everything that comes your way, but you can control what you agree to. And that control is what allows you to shape a future that's different from your past. You also have to understand that saying no is not a one-time decision. It's a habit. Every day you'll face new situations where you have to decide if something belongs in your life or not. And every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, you strengthen your ability to move forward. It becomes easier. It becomes natural. You stop feeling guilty, and you start feeling proud that you're protecting your progress. The people who make real changes in their life are not the ones who try to do everything. They're the ones who become selective. They're the ones who filter their commitments through the lens of their goals. They're the ones who understand that their time is finite and their energy is precious. They know they can't afford to spend it on things that lead nowhere. You have to stop thinking of saying no as closing a door forever. In most cases, you're not saying never. You're saying not now. You're saying not at the cost of my progress. You're saying not until I've built the life I want. And when you've done that, you can choose how you spend your time without fear of losing momentum. The bottom line is this: if you want to move forward, you have to stop giving your time and energy to the things that keep you in place. It doesn't matter if they're comfortable. It doesn't matter if they're familiar. It doesn't matter if people expect you to keep doing them. If they don't push you towards your goals, they're holding you back. And the longer you hold on to them, the longer you'll stay exactly where you are. You have a limited number of days, hours, and moments to create the life you want. Every yes you give to something that keeps you stuck is a day, an hour, a moment you can never get back. If you care about your future, you have to start saying no to anything that steals your forward motion. Your growth depends on it. Your success depends on it. And your peace of mind depends on it. Number 9, stop seeking advice from people not living your dream. One of the quickest ways to lose momentum in life is to constantly seek advice from people who have never done what you're trying to do. It might feel natural to ask friends, family, or coworkers for their opinions, but if they've never walked the path you're aiming for, their perspective will be limited by their own experiences and beliefs. They may care about you, they may even mean well, but if they have no real understanding of the life you want to create, their advice will be shaped by their own fears, doubts, and limitations. And if you're not careful, those limitations will become yours. Too many people take advice from anyone who will give it without stopping to ask, has this person achieved what I'm aiming for? If the answer is no, you have to question how much weight you give to their opinion. You wouldn't take financial advice from someone drowning in debt. You wouldn't take health advice from someone who refuses to take care of themselves. Yet in life, people take career advice from people who hate their jobs, relationship advice from people in broken relationships, and business advice from people who have never built anything. That's a dangerous habit, because advice carries influence, and influence shapes decisions. The truth is, most advice is filtered through the other person's worldview. If their worldview is based on playing it safe, avoiding risk, and staying comfortable, their advice will reflect that. If you're aiming to start a business, they'll tell you it's too risky. If you're chasing a big goal, they'll tell you to lower your expectations. They're not necessarily trying to stop you out of malice. They're just giving advice based on what they know. And what they know has never required them to take the steps you're about to take. That's why it's so important to be selective about whose voice you allow into your decision-making process. When you constantly seek advice from people who aren't living your dream, you'll end up with guidance that doesn't fit your path. They might tell you what worked for them, but if they're not where you want to be, their strategies might lead you in circles. They might discourage you from making bold moves because they've never made them themselves. Over time, their words can create hesitation, and hesitation kills progress. You have to understand that the people closest to you may not be your best guide. They might love you, but love doesn't automatically make someone qualified to direct your journey. If they haven't built what you're building, they're guessing, and the cost of following bad advice is high. You lose time, you lose confidence, you lose opportunity, and sometimes you lose the belief that your dream is even possible. Instead of asking everyone for their opinion, you need to look for people who have actually achieved something similar to what you want. These are the people whose advice is grounded in experience, not theory. They face the same obstacles you'll face. They've made the mistakes and learned the lessons. They can tell you what works and what doesn't, because they've lived it. And just as important, their mindset is shaped by action, not fear. Sometimes you won't have direct access to these people. That doesn't mean you can't learn from them. You can study their work, read their books, listen to their talks, and observe how they think. The point is to filter the guidance you follow so that it comes from people whose lives are a reflection of the results you want. It's also important to develop the ability to trust your own judgment. Seeking advice can easily become a way to avoid making decisions. You keep asking for more opinions because you're afraid of getting it wrong. But the truth is, you learn far more from taking action and adjusting along the way than from collecting endless amounts of advice from people who aren't even on your path. The more you trust yourself to make decisions, the less dependent you become on outside approval. Another danger in seeking advice from the wrong people is that they might project their failures onto you. If they once tried something similar and it didn't work for them, they might tell you it's impossible. But their failure doesn't have to be your fate. They may have lacked the skill, the persistence, or the resources that you now have. They might have quit too soon. Their story is theirs, not yours. If you let it become yours, you'll carry limitations that were never truly yours to begin with. You also have to watch for the advice that comes from envy or insecurity. Some people will subtly discourage you because your ambition makes them uncomfortable. If you succeed, it will remind them of the chances they never took. So they'll try to pull you back down to where they are. It might not be obvious. It might come in the form of practical suggestions or warnings disguised as concern. But the effect is the same. You slow down, and they feel safer. To protect yourself from this, you have to set boundaries around your dream. You don't have to share every detail with everyone. You don't have to explain every decision you make. Keep your vision in the hands of people who will nurture it, not crush it. That might mean limiting the conversations you have with certain people about your goal. It might mean saying, I appreciate your concern, but I've got this handled. You don't owe everyone access to your plans. When you do seek advice, ask yourself 3 questions. Has this person achieved what I want to achieve? Do they understand the risks and sacrifices involved? Do they believe it's possible? If the answer to any of these is no, then take their advice lightly. Listen if you want, but don't let it outweigh the input of people who meet those criteria. You also have to be willing to act without validation. The right mentors won't always be available to approve every move you make, You can't pause your progress waiting for someone else to tell you it's okay to keep going. At some point, you have to decide that your dream is worth the risk, even if no one else fully sees it yet. Over time, you'll find that the less you seek advice from unqualified people, the more confidence you build in your own direction. You'll stop feeling the need to explain your every step to people who aren't walking beside you. You'll start surrounding yourself with voices that challenge you to grow instead of pulling you back. And you'll begin to see that your dream becomes clearer and stronger when it's protected from the influence of those who don't understand it. The bottom line is this: your future is too important to be shaped by the opinions of people who have never lived the kind of life you want. If they're not where you want to be, they can't lead you there. Learn from those who have walked the road, and trust yourself to keep moving even when others can't see what you see. Your dream doesn't require everyone's approval. It requires your commitment, and that commitment starts with choosing whose advice is worth taking and whose is worth ignoring. Number 10, choose progress over approval. Every single time. Most people slow their own progress because they care too much about being liked, accepted, and approved of by others. They want reassurance that they're doing the right thing. They want applause before they've even reached the finish line. They want everyone to be on board with their plans before they take the first step. And in trying to gain that approval, they often delay action, water down their goals, or change direction to fit what others think. If you're serious about building a meaningful life, you have to break that habit and choose progress over approval every single time. Approval feels good, but it's temporary. You might win people's praise for a moment, but the moment you take a step they don't understand or agree with, that approval can disappear. Progress, on the other hand, lasts. Progress builds a foundation that no opinion can take away. Every skill you build, every habit you strengthen, every step you take toward your goals is yours forever. That's why you have to decide whose validation matters more. The world's or your own. When you focus on approval, you hand over your power. You let other people decide how you should live, when you should act, and what's worth pursuing. Their reactions become the measure of your success instead of the actual results you create. That's dangerous, because most people will see your dreams through the lens of their own fears and limitations. They'll often tell you to slow down, play it safe, or settle for less. If you make their comfort your priority, you'll keep yourself in the same place for years. Choosing progress means making decisions based on where you want to go, not on how many people will cheer you along the way. It means taking action even when no one is clapping. It means continuing when no one notices. It means pushing forward despite doubt, criticism, or misunderstanding. And it means valuing your own opinion of your life more than anyone else's. You have to understand that approval can be a trap disguised as support. People might praise you as long as you're doing things that align with their expectations. But the moment you start doing something bold or different, they might withdraw their support. If you're addicted to approval, that withdrawal will feel like failure, and you'll be tempted to stop. But if your focus is on progress, you'll keep going regardless, because you're measuring your worth by your own growth, not by how many people agree with it. It's important to realize that real progress often looks unimpressive to outsiders. They won't see the early mornings, the long hours, the sacrifices, or the tiny victories that lead to big wins. They might even think you're wasting your time because the results aren't instant. If you're working for their approval, that perception will pressure you into quitting. But if you're working for progress, you'll keep going because you know that each day's effort is stacking towards something bigger. One of the hardest parts of choosing progress over approval is that you will lose some people along the way. Friends, coworkers, even family members may not understand why you're so committed to your path. Some may drift away. Some may criticize you. Some may try to convince you to stop. That's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're moving in a direction they're not willing to go. If you change course to keep them comfortable, you'll be the one living with regret. Progress requires discipline. It requires you to keep going when it's uncomfortable, boring, or thankless. Approval, on the other hand, requires you to perform for others. It makes you dependent on their reaction before you feel good about yourself. That's why so many people get stuck. They're waiting for someone else to give them permission to move forward. But you don't need permission. You need commitment. You have to train yourself to feel more satisfaction from completing a task than from being praised for it. Celebrate the quiet wins that no one else notices. The day you showed up when you didn't feel like it. The habit you kept for another week. The new skill you practiced until it started to feel natural. Those are the moments that build progress. And if you value them more than applause, you'll keep stacking them until they turn into achievements that even the loudest critic can't ignore. Approval is also inconsistent. Some days people will praise you. Some days they'll ignore you. Some days they'll question you. If your motivation depends on that, your motivation will always be unstable. But progress is steady. Every time you take a step forward, you move closer to your goal, no matter what anyone else thinks. That's why it's far more reliable to base your drive on progress than on approval. Choosing progress also frees you from the exhausting need to explain yourself. When you're chasing approval, you spend too much time justifying your decisions, defending your choices, and trying to win people over. That's energy you could be spending on moving forward. When you choose progress, you stop explaining so much and start showing results instead. You let your work speak for itself. You let your actions tell the story. There's another benefit to prioritizing progress. It builds self-respect. Every time you act in alignment with your goals, instead of other people's expectations, you prove to yourself that your vision matters. You prove that you can trust yourself to follow through. That trust becomes confidence, and confidence fuels even more progress. Over time, you'll notice that the people whose approval you once craved either fade into the background or start respecting you because you stayed consistent. The irony is that the fastest way to earn genuine respect is to stop chasing it. When you choose progress consistently, the right people will see your results and naturally value what you've done. But by then, their opinion won't matter nearly as much to you because you've built something more important, a life that you chose, not one that was chosen for you. If you want to make real changes, stop asking yourself, will people approve of this? And start asking, will this move me closer to where I want to be? If the answer is yes, do it, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's unpopular, even if no one else understands right now. Progress has to matter more than approval if you want to break free from the limits of other people's expectations. The truth is, the world will always have opinions about what you should do. Some will think you're going too slow. Some will think you're going too fast. And some will think you shouldn't try at all. If you waste your life trying to please all of them, you'll end up pleasing none of them, and you'll lose yourself in the process. But if you focus on your own progress, you'll wake up years from now with a life that reflects your choices, not theirs. Every day you have to make that choice. Approval or progress. Approval will give you comfort today, but leave you stuck tomorrow. Progress might feel uncomfortable today, but it will give you freedom, strength, and results tomorrow. And when you look back, you'll be grateful that you chose to move forward, even when it meant walking without applause. Because in the end, the life you build is the only real approval you'll ever need. So here's the truth. No one is coming to live your life for you. No one will walk your path, make your choices, or carry your dreams. That is your job. And the more you focus on yourself, the clearer your direction becomes. The more you work on you, the stronger and more confident you feel. Stop giving away your attention to things and people that don't move you forward. Protect your time. Protect your energy. Build the life you actually want, not the one others expect you to live. If today's message hit you, don't just leave inspired. Take action. Start with one small decision today that is for you and you alone. And if you're ready to keep growing, keep learning, and keep moving forward, make sure you come back for the next session. Your future is waiting, and it starts with where you focus right now.